Patience is not about sitting idle and hoping that something magical will happen. It's about understanding the rhythm of success, the flow between effort and timing. Most people want results instantly. They want the payoff before they've truly earned it. But real success doesn't bend to impatience. It demands a combination of faith in the process and consistent action in the present moment. Waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means preparing, refining, and aligning yourself so that when the opportunity appears, you're ready to seize it without hesitation. The world is full of people who gave up moments before their breakthrough. They wanted to see results immediately, and when they didn't, they labeled the process as failure. But success has its own timeline. It rewards those who can endure the uncertainty, who can trust that every disciplined step taken today compounds into something powerful tomorrow. The key lies in balance, working with full intensity while keeping patience as your anchor. You can't force the market, the world, or your growth to move faster than it's meant to. What you can control is your preparation, your consistency, and your mindset during the waiting. Think about it. The farmer doesn't dig up the seed every day to check its progress. He plants, waters, nurtures, and trusts the process until the harvest season comes. The same principle applies to trading, business, or any pursuit of mastery. You put in the work, studying, refining your skills, managing your emotions, and then you wait. But not with frustration, you wait with confidence, knowing that what you're building internally will eventually manifest externally. Waiting becomes part of the work. The problem for most people is not the lack of opportunity, it's the lack of patience to let their preparation mature. They start strong, then drift when results don't come on their timeline. They shift strategies, lose focus, and abandon the very process that would have led them to success. True professionals understand that consistency outlasts impatience. They don't need immediate validation. They trust their edge, their discipline, and their long-term commitment to the craft. When you learn to work while waiting, you detach from outcomes and connect with process. You no longer chase results, you attract them through alignment. Every effort becomes an investment. Every delay becomes refinement. Waiting turns from frustration into a training ground for emotional strength. It's in that space between doing your best and letting time do its part where transformation happens. Success is not a single event. It's a series of disciplined decisions made while most others quit. So the real test isn't whether you can work hard, it's whether you can keep working hard without seeing instant results. Because success doesn't respond to impatience, it responds to persistence. When you learn to master that duality, the ability to work relentlessly and wait patiently, you align yourself with the natural law of growth. And in that alignment, success has no choice but to find you. Patience is one of the most misunderstood concepts when it comes to achieving success. People often mistake patience for inactivity or weakness, as if waiting means sitting still and doing nothing. But in truth, patience is an active, deliberate process that requires strength, focus, and deep trust in the timing of things. It's about preparation, not passivity. It's about being ready before the opportunity arrives, sharpening your mind, your craft, your awareness, and your discipline while you wait for the right moment to act. Real patience is a kind of strategic stillness. It's the calm before execution, not the absence of movement, but the mastery of timing. When you look at people who succeed consistently over time, you'll notice something subtle yet powerful about them. They don't chase every impulse. They don't react emotionally to temporary setbacks, and they don't force results. Instead, they prepare with purpose. They use the waiting period to deepen their understanding, to refine their process, to strengthen their mental state. Their patience isn't passive, it's alive, intentional, and filled with momentum beneath the surface. It's like a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike, completely focused, completely aware, but never reckless. The timing of action becomes everything, and only those who have cultivated patience can sense when that timing is right. In markets, in business, and in life, impulsiveness destroys potential faster than failure ever could. People want the reward before they've earned it, they want certainty before commitment, and they want control over things that can't be controlled. Patience, on the other hand, is the understanding that control doesn't come from forcing outcomes, but from mastering your own reactions. When you learn to stay calm in uncertainty, when you can continue to act with discipline despite not seeing immediate results, you become dangerous in a good way. You develop the kind of resilience that separates those who endure from those who disappear when pressure builds. Think about a trader who understands this principle. While others jump in and out of the market trying to catch every move, the patient trader waits. He studies the structure, the rhythm, the setups. He doesn't get emotional when others are making noise. He knows that one good trade executed with perfect timing is worth more than 100 impulsive ones driven by fear or greed. That patience isn't passive, it's deeply active. He's observing, analyzing, planning, preparing. His waiting is filled with purpose. The same applies to an artist, an entrepreneur, or anyone trying to build something meaningful. The moment you try to rush the process, you step out of alignment with growth. Success doesn't come to those who sprint toward it blindly. It comes to those who move with awareness, who know when to act and when to wait. Every great creation, every major achievement goes through an unseen period of preparation. There's always a time when nothing seems to be happening on the surface, but that's where real progress is taking place, below the surface in the foundation you're building. Patience gives you space to think clearly, to learn from mistakes without emotional distortion. It allows you to make decisions from strength, not desperation. The impatient mind is reactive, constantly needing reassurance and quick results. The patient mind, however, operates from conviction. It knows that the process itself is part of the reward. It knows that consistency will always compound, even if the results aren't visible yet. This mindset transforms the waiting period into an opportunity to grow sharper, wiser, more capable. You begin to see waiting not as wasted time, but as investment time. There's an incredible power in being able to delay gratification. It means you've broken free from emotional control. It means you've learned to prioritize long-term success over short-term satisfaction. Every time you choose patience over impulse, you reinforce your internal strength. You begin to trust yourself more because you're no longer ruled by your emotions or the pace of the world around you. You realize that real progress is slow, intentional, and often invisible until it suddenly becomes undeniable. Patience also teaches you humility. It reminds you that not everything revolves around your timeline. There are factors, systems, and energies at play that you can't control. No matter how much effort you exert, accepting that truth gives you peace. It doesn't mean you stop working. It means you stop fighting reality. You align yourself with it. You keep doing the work. You keep showing up. You keep refining your craft, and you trust that the results will come when they're meant to. That's what separates those who endure from those who fade away when things don't go according to plan. Most people give up too soon because they misinterpret the silence of waiting as failure. They don't realize that silence is part of growth. A seed planted in the ground doesn't show results immediately, but inside the soul, transformation is happening. Patience is the understanding that your time will come if you stay committed and consistent. Every moment spent in preparation counts, even if it doesn't produce instant recognition. The difference between average and extraordinary lies in the ability to endure the gap between effort and outcome without losing faith. When you master patience as active preparation, you develop emotional intelligence that spills over into every area of life. You become more focused in your actions, more grounded in your thinking, and more deliberate in your choices. You begin to operate from a place of clarity rather than chaos. The more patient you become, the more control you gain, not over external events, but over yourself. And that internal control eventually translates into external success. Patience doesn't slow your journey. It accelerates it by eliminating wasted motion. Every act of preparation during the waiting period adds precision to your next move. Every delay refines your strategy. Every challenge strengthens your mindset. The work done while waiting compounds silently, creating an inner confidence that no external validation can match. Over time, this patience becomes your edge, the quiet power that allows you to move efficiently when the opportunity finally arrives. Because when it does, you're not reacting, you're ready. Success has a natural rhythm that doesn't respond to impatience. It follows its own path, rewarding those who trust the process long enough to let their preparation evolve into mastery. People often confuse motion with progress, believing that constant activity guarantees success. But success isn't just about how hard you work, it's about how aligned your actions are with timing, focus, and consistency. Trusting the process means accepting that results unfold in stages, not instantly. It's about understanding that every deliberate step, no matter how small or unseen, contributes to a larger outcome that only reveals itself with time. The moment you try to rush that evolution, you break the flow that makes success sustainable. Most individuals abandon their path not because they lack skill or ambition, but because they lose faith in the process. They start strong, fueled by excitement, but the moment progress slows down, doubt creeps in. They question their methods, their timing, their abilities. They start searching for shortcuts, switching strategies before any of them have time to mature. The problem isn't the process, it's their impatience with it. Success doesn't respond to constant interference. It requires space to breathe, to compound, to connect the unseen dots that lead to visible outcomes. Trusting the process means letting go of the need for immediate proof and focusing instead on consistency. In trading, in entrepreneurship, in creative work, the principle remains the same. You can't plant a seed today and demand fruit tomorrow. You nurture it, protect it, and trust that growth is happening beneath the surface. The same applies to skill development or personal growth. You can't measure your progress daily because growth doesn't always show up in obvious ways. Sometimes progress feels like stillness. Sometimes it feels like confusion or stagnation. But even in those moments, something inside you is refining, aligning, adjusting. Trusting the process means you continue to show up despite not seeing immediate change because you understand that mastery is being built in silence long before it becomes visible. The process has its own intelligence. It tests you, shapes you, and filters out the ones who aren't truly committed. It forces you to develop patience, humility, and discipline, traits that are essential for handling success once it arrives. Without that inner development, even if you achieve quick results, they won't last. People who skip the process often end up collapsing under the weight of their own success because they never built the foundation strong enough to sustain it. Trusting the process ensures that when success comes, you're ready for it, mentally, emotionally, and practically. The market doesn't reward those who try to control it, it rewards those who respect it. The same law applies to life. You can't manipulate outcomes by force. You can only align yourself with the flow of consistent, intentional action. When you trust the process, you stop fighting time. You stop overreacting to short-term fluctuations and instead stay committed to the long-term vision. This doesn't mean blind faith. It means intelligent patience. You keep evaluating, learning, and adapting, but you don't panic when things take longer than expected. The process always rewards those who stay the course. Trusting the process also means embracing uncertainty. You won't always know how or when things will work out, and that's the point. The uncertainty is what teaches you resilience and adaptability. Every delay, every detour, every challenge becomes part of your evolution. Instead of seeing obstacles as signs of failure, you start seeing them as essential checkpoints that strengthen your character. Success built on trust in the process is deeper, more authentic, and more sustainable because it comes from growth, not luck. The ones who rush the process often chase results they can't hold on to. They get temporary wins, but no stability. The ones who trust the process, however, build internal power. They become unshakable because their confidence isn't based on results. It's based on the work they've put in and the lessons they've learned along the way. This kind of confidence can't be broken by temporary setbacks. It's rooted in belief, not in outcomes. It's the belief that every effort counts, even if you can't see the immediate reward. That kind of belief separates professionals from amateurs. Success is rarely about doing more, it's about doing better. When you trust the process, you stop wasting energy on anxiety and start channeling it into mastery. You begin to see repetition as refinement rather than boredom. You stop looking for new distractions and start doubling down on what truly matters. Every action becomes intentional. Every delay becomes part of the setup. You no longer measure success by how fast you're moving, but by how aligned you are with the right direction. That shift in mindset transforms your entire approach. You become patient yet persistent, detached yet deeply committed. Trusting the process also protects you from emotional volatility. It keeps you grounded when others are reacting out of fear or greed. In any competitive field, emotions destroy more potential than lack of skill ever could. When you trust your process, you don't need to chase external validation. You develop a quiet certainty that allows you to stay steady while everyone else is panicking. You stop making impulsive decisions because you know that your path unfolds through consistency, not chaos. There's a kind of calm that comes from trusting your process fully. It doesn't mean you stop learning or adapting. It means you stop doubting your foundation every time you face a challenge. You build a rhythm of continuous growth, small, deliberate actions that accumulate into massive results over time. The beauty of this mindset is that it removes unnecessary pressure. You no longer need everything to happen immediately because you know it's already happening, just not always in visible form. The process is always working in your favor as long as you keep feeding it with effort, focus, and patience. Most people underestimate how long it takes to become exceptional at something. They give up in the middle of the invisible phase, the phase where progress is happening internally. But those who stay with the process long enough eventually experience exponential results. That's how mastery works. It compounds quietly and then accelerates suddenly. The moment you lose trust in the process, you reset that compounding effect. Every time you start over because of impatience, you rob yourself of the rewards that were about to appear. So trusting the process is not about waiting blindly. It's about maintaining your direction when the outcome isn't yet visible. It's about continuing to improve even when no one notices. It's about putting your energy into growth instead of doubt. When you commit to that kind of trust, you align yourself with the very nature of success. You stop trying to force it, and instead you allow it to unfold exactly as it should. Consistency and timing are the invisible forces behind every lasting success. Most people underestimate how much progress can be built from doing the right thing over and over again, even when it feels small or insignificant. They look for breakthroughs, for big moments, for sudden transformation. But in reality, the big moments are born out of hundreds of quiet, consistent actions taken with patience and precision. Timing without consistency is luck. Consistency without timing is effort misplaced. But when both come together, when your effort aligns with opportunity, momentum becomes unstoppable. Success then becomes less about force and more about flow. Consistency is discipline in motion. It's showing up every day even when motivation is gone, even when results are delayed. It's understanding that every repetition, every small improvement compounds silently. People often stop too soon because they don't see visible change, but the real growth happens beneath the surface. The body, the mind, and the environment are all adjusting, responding to your persistence. Each act of consistency builds trust, not with others, but with yourself. You start to believe in your ability to stay committed, to follow through, to handle the weight. That internal trust becomes one of your greatest assets because once you can rely on yourself, you no longer depend on circumstances to keep you going. Timing, on the other hand, is about awareness. It's not something you can control directly, but you can position yourself to recognize it. People who fail to see opportunity are usually those who weren't prepared when it arrived. They were distracted, unfocused, or inconsistent. So even when timing was perfect, they couldn't take advantage of it. Timing rewards those who stay ready. It's the reason the same opportunity can appear to two people, yet only one sees it and acts on it effectively. The difference isn't luck, it's preparation meeting awareness. The more consistent you are, the sharper your sense of timing becomes because your intuition is trained through experience. You begin to notice subtle signals others miss. Momentum is what happens when consistency meets timing. Every small, steady action builds pressure behind the scenes, and when the right moment arrives, that accumulated energy bursts forward into visible success. Most people misinterpret this as sudden luck or a miracle breakthrough. But the truth is, the explosion was being built slowly, deliberately through repetition and patience. Consistency is the engine, timing is the spark. Without one, the other can create lasting power. In trading, for example, consistency means sticking to your plan, managing risk, following your process even through drawdowns. Timing is about knowing when to strike, when the setup aligns perfectly. The trader who's been consistent in preparation can wait for the perfect moment without fear or doubt. But the trader who's inconsistent panics or hesitates because they haven't built that foundation of trust. The same principle applies in every field. The musician who practices daily recognizes inspiration immediately when it comes. The athlete who trains relentlessly knows exactly when to make the decisive move. The entrepreneur who builds patiently can sense the shift in the market before it becomes obvious to others. The world often celebrates the visible part of success, the timing, the execution, the big moment, but what it overlooks is the invisible preparation that made that moment possible. Consistency is rarely glamorous. It's repetitive, lonely, and often thankless, but that's where greatness is forged. Every day you choose to show up adds another layer of strength. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent enough to outlast those who quit too early. Over time, those small efforts accumulate into an edge so powerful that others mistake it for talent or genius. Timing doesn't favor the impatient. It reveals itself slowly to those who are still standing when the window opens. If you're inconsistent, you won't be there to recognize it. That's why so many people say opportunities are rare. They aren't rare. People just aren't consistent enough to catch them. Every opportunity has a rhythm, A moment when conditions align perfectly. Consistency ensures you're aligned with that rhythm when it happens. It's like catching a wave. You can't force it, but you can position yourself correctly through repetition, through practice, through patience. The hardest part about consistency is that it often feels invisible. You can give everything for months or years without seeing measurable progress. That's where most people lose their edge. They start doubting the process, questioning the value of their effort. But those who keep going eventually reach a tipping point where the results start compounding faster than ever before. Consistency creates stability, and stability gives you the confidence to stay patient through uncertainty. When everyone else is reacting emotionally, you remain grounded because your foundation isn't built on quick wins, it's built on long-term endurance. Timing without consistency leads to inconsistency of results. You might get lucky once or twice, but it won't last. Success that depends on chance eventually collapses because there's no structure supporting it. Consistency builds that structure. It gives you the resilience to recover from setbacks, the perspective to learn from mistakes, and the clarity to know when to act. When you've built consistency, time starts working for you instead of against you. The compounding effect of steady effort becomes your ally. You no longer need to chase outcomes because you know that continued alignment will bring them to you naturally. Every professional understands that success doesn't happen every day, but progress does. You may not win every trade, every deal, every opportunity, but as long as you're consistent in your process, you're moving in the right direction. Timing ensures those wins come at critical moments that define your long-term trajectory. There will be times when nothing seems to work, when every effort feels wasted. Those are the moments that test your belief. If you can remain consistent during those times when no one is watching and no one is applauding, that's when your edge deepens. Because when the right moment appears, your readiness will make it look effortless. Consistency also shapes your mindset. It trains you to focus on process over results. When you commit to showing up daily, you detach from short-term outcomes. You stop chasing highs and lows and instead find stability and discipline. That mental state allows you to see timing clearly. You stop rushing, stop forcing, and start flowing with reality. Success then becomes predictable not because you control it, but because you've aligned yourself with the principles that govern it. Momentum built on consistency and timing has a compounding nature. The more consistent you are, the better your timing becomes. The better your timing, the faster your progress accelerates. Each small success reinforces your belief, which fuels even greater consistency. It becomes a cycle that builds exponential growth. This is how professionals separate themselves from the crowd, not through intensity, but through persistence aligned with awareness. The amateurs burn out because they operate on emotion. The professionals build momentum because they operate on rhythm. When consistency and timing merge, you begin to experience flow, that effortless state where everything seems to connect naturally. You're not forcing results, you're guiding them. You recognize that every action, no matter how minor, contributes to a larger sequence of events that eventually produce success. The power lies not in doing everything at once, but in doing the right thing at the right time again and again until success has no choice but to follow. Working while waiting is one of the most powerful disciplines a person can develop. It's the space where patience meets persistence, where preparation continues even when visible results haven't yet appeared. Most people think waiting means doing nothing, but that's a misunderstanding. Waiting doesn't mean stopping, it means maintaining readiness. While the conditions align, it's about staying active mentally, emotionally, and strategically even when progress seems invisible. The ability to work while waiting separates professionals from amateurs, masters from beginners, and achievers from dreamers. It's not about how fast you move, but how focused you remain when time tests your faith in the process. Working while waiting means recognizing that not every season produces visible growth, but every season offers the chance to refine your foundation. You can't control how fast opportunities arrive, but you can control how prepared you are when they do. While others waste time doubting, complaining, or second-guessing, the ones who understand this principle are quietly improving, strengthening their skills, studying the details, and becoming sharper. That unseen work done in silence becomes the invisible advantage that pays off later in massive ways. The waiting period is never wasted time if you use it to develop depth. Every moment spent learning, practicing, and adjusting builds the kind of internal confidence that no external circumstance can shake. The reality is that success has pauses built into its process. There are stretches where nothing seems to be moving, where effort feels unrewarded, and where motivation fades. That's when most people stop working, thinking their effort doesn't matter. But those who keep working through the stillness build momentum that others can't see. They keep showing up, refining their mindset, and preparing for when the door finally opens. They understand that waiting isn't punishment, it's preparation. Every hour spent in deliberate effort during quiet times compounds silently and eventually creates a surge of opportunity that looks like luck from the outside. To work while waiting requires emotional strength because it goes against human impatience. It means accepting uncertainty without surrendering to it. You must learn to detach from immediate outcomes and focus instead on the process. The mind naturally wants validation. It wants to see progress as proof that the effort is working. But real mastery comes from working even when there's no validation. It's about building trust in yourself, in your strategy, and in time itself. You stop looking for signs that it's working and instead decide that it will work because you refuse to quit. That mindset turns waiting from frustration into evolution. Consider how this applies to traders, entrepreneurs, or creators. The best traders don't stare at screens trying to force trades. They study, they review, they observe patterns while waiting for the market to align. The best entrepreneurs don't rush into every opportunity. They strengthen their systems, build their teams, and refine their ideas until the timing is right. The best creators don't wait for inspiration to strike. They work through creative blocks, producing consistently even when motivation runs low. The common factor among all of them is the ability to keep moving forward during stillness. They understand that the external world eventually mirrors the internal work, and that the period of waiting is simply the time when the universe is aligning conditions in their favor. Working while waiting also develops patience as a skill, not just a virtue. It teaches endurance, the ability to stay consistent without external pressure or praise. You begin to realize that the waiting phase tests your readiness. If you can remain disciplined when nothing seems to be happening, you're training the very mindset required to handle success when it does arrive. Because once success comes, it demands even more discipline, focus, and responsibility. The ones who stayed active during waiting are the ones who handle that pressure with calm and precision. The waiting phase is also where clarity is built. When you keep working without distractions, you begin to see things from a higher perspective. You refine your goals, identify weaknesses, and strengthen your mental endurance. The act of working during waiting clears out emotional noise. You stop rushing and start understanding. You learn the rhythm of timing, how every moment has its own pace. You become patient not because you've given up control, but because you've learned how to align with time rather than fight it. That alignment turns stress into focus and waiting into wisdom. People who don't understand this concept waste the waiting period in frustration. They complain, compare themselves to others, or try to force outcomes that aren't ready. In doing so, they disrupt the natural progression of growth. They confuse movement with progress and end up exhausting themselves chasing opportunities that don't fit. But those who keep working patiently stay in rhythm with success. They understand that their consistency during the waiting defines their ability to perform when the moment arrives. You can't suddenly rise to the occasion. You fall back to the level of your preparation. That's why working while waiting is essential. It's what keeps your skills sharp and your confidence steady. During the waiting phase, the most valuable progress is internal. You learn emotional balance, mental toughness, and focus. You start to detach from urgency and find peace in persistence. The outer world might look unchanged, but inside, you're becoming someone different, someone capable of handling the level of success you're preparing for. Every challenge you face during this time is training your patience. Every delay is refining your endurance. Every quiet day is strengthening your foundation. Waiting becomes less about time and more about transformation. Working while waiting also keeps you grounded in reality. It prevents you from overreacting to temporary setbacks or distractions. You develop a mindset that focuses on what can be controlled. Your effort, your attitude, your consistency. You no longer waste energy wishing things were different. You channel that energy into becoming better. You realize that when the external pace slows down, it's the perfect opportunity to focus on what's internal. Your mindset, your systems, your preparation. You stop seeing waiting as a gap and start seeing it as an investment window. There's a quiet confidence that comes from staying productive during slow seasons. You begin to feel a sense of calm power, knowing that while others are restless, you're getting stronger. You're not just passing time, you're building something within yourself. The person who learns to keep working while waiting becomes unstoppable because they no longer depend on external motivation. Their momentum comes from discipline, not excitement. Their faith is built through consistency, not luck. They develop a level of emotional control that allows them to thrive even in uncertainty. When you continue to work while waiting, the delay no longer feels like an obstacle. It becomes part of the process. You begin to see the waiting not as wasted time, but as the most critical stage of growth. You stop asking, when will it happen, and start asking, how can I use this time better? That question shifts everything. It moves you from passivity to purpose. You start noticing opportunities that were invisible before because your focus is no longer on the future. It's on what you can do now. Each small action builds momentum. Each disciplined choice strengthens your foundation. The waiting period becomes a workshop for your future success. The truth is, the people who seem to get lucky are often the ones who work the hardest when no one was watching. They stayed consistent through long stretches of silence. They used their waiting periods wisely, turning downtime into preparation time. And when the opportunity finally appeared, they didn't need to scramble. They were ready, because real success doesn't come to those who sit idle. It comes to those who work with intention even when progress isn't visible. Working while waiting is the hidden edge that turns time from an enemy into an ally and transforms waiting from frustration into power. The true edge lies in persistence beyond visible results. It's easy to stay motivated when you're seeing progress, when the rewards are visible, and when people recognize your effort. But the real test begins when nothing seems to move, when your hard work goes unnoticed, and when results appear distant. That's the moment most people give up, not because they lack skill or knowledge, but because they can't tolerate the silence between effort and reward. Persistence in that silence is where true success is built. It's where internal strength is forged and where belief transforms into conviction. The difference between those who make it and those who don't often comes down to this single ability: to keep going when there's no external proof that it's working. Persistence isn't glamorous. It doesn't look exciting or dramatic. It's repetitive, often lonely, and sometimes feels endless. But it's also the phase that separates pretenders from professionals. Every meaningful breakthrough is preceded by long stretches of invisible progress, times when nothing seems to change, yet beneath the surface, everything is aligning. Those who persist during those phases build a level of emotional and mental endurance that no shortcut can provide. They develop the ability to act with faith instead of frustration, and that faith becomes their greatest advantage. Most people underestimate the compounding power of persistence. They think success is about big wins, but it's actually about small efforts stacked on top of each other over time. Every day you stay consistent even without results. You're compounding growth in ways you can't yet see. Skills are improving. Understanding is deepening. Mindset is hardening. The external world just hasn't caught up to the internal transformation yet. Persistence allows you to stay in that gap without losing focus or belief. You stop chasing instant validation and start operating from inner conviction. That shift in mindset creates a kind of unshakable stability that can carry you through any phase of the journey. When you're persistent beyond visible results, you learn how to detach from the outcome. You no longer define progress by what you can see, you define it by what you're becoming. You start to realize that every action counts, even if it doesn't seem to. The work you do in silence prepares you for the moment when everything aligns. You begin to trust the process so deeply that external circumstances lose their power over you. Whether you're winning or losing, you keep showing up. Whether people notice or not, you keep improving. Whether the pace is fast or painfully slow, you keep your rhythm. That's the discipline that transforms effort into excellence. Persistence isn't about grinding endlessly without thought. It's about committing intelligently to your process. It means analyzing, adjusting, and improving while staying consistent. It means understanding that temporary stagnation doesn't mean failure. It's just the natural delay between planting and harvesting. Every great achievement has a lag time. There's always a period where the results don't match the effort yet, but the effort is quietly building the results that will eventually appear. Those who quit during that lag time never discover how close they were to the breakthrough. In markets, this concept is everywhere. Traders who lose patience during a drawdown often exit right before the rebound. Entrepreneurs who stop just short of profitability often miss the tipping point by a few weeks. Creators who abandon their craft too early never get to experience the compounding effects of mastery. The ones who persist, however, develop an internal calm that shields them from the chaos around them. They learn to endure boredom, rejection, and uncertainty without losing momentum. They understand that persistence isn't about doing the same thing endlessly. It's about continuing to refine and progress even when feedback is scarce. The reason persistence gives you the ultimate edge is because it filters out the competition. Most people can only handle temporary effort. They want results faster than they can earn them. When progress slows, they lose focus, start doubting themselves, or jump to something new. The ones who persist quietly outlast them. Over time, as others fall away, persistence becomes a competitive advantage. There's less noise, less competition, and more opportunity for those who stayed. The edge isn't in brilliance or talent, it's in endurance. It's in your ability to remain focused long after others have lost interest. Persistence also builds emotional detachment. You stop getting shaken by temporary losses or setbacks because you've learned that the journey itself is a series of fluctuations. Success is never linear. It rises and falls, expands and contracts, just like any natural process. When you embrace that rhythm, you stop fighting it. You learn to see each challenge as part of your preparation. Every obstacle becomes training. Every delay becomes refinement. Every failure becomes feedback. Persistence transforms adversity into fuel because each time you survive a tough phase, your resilience grows stronger. The greatest breakthroughs often come right after the point where most people would quit. That's not coincidence. It's how the process works. Persistence stretches you, tests you, and brings you to the edge of your comfort zone. It makes sure you've earned what's coming. The final test of persistence is whether you can stay committed even when nothing makes sense. That's where character is built. That's where you separate emotion from execution. You no longer need guarantees because your consistency becomes your guarantee. The power of persistence also lies in repetition. Every repetition reinforces mastery. Every time you choose to try again, you deepen your understanding of your craft. You start seeing patterns others overlook. You develop instincts that only come from time spent in the process. Persistence gives birth to intuition, that unspoken knowing that guides your timing, your strategy, your decision making. It's not magic, it's the result of accumulated experience built through countless hours of showing up when it didn't seem to matter. When you push past the point where most would stop, something inside you changes. You stop relying on external motivation. You stop needing everything to happen quickly. You start valuing endurance more than excitement. You begin to operate from quiet strength instead of loud ambition. You become patient but relentless, calm but driven. You realize that your persistence itself is proof of success because it means you've already developed the mindset required to achieve and sustain it. The invisible phase between effort and outcome is where persistence becomes your teacher. It teaches humility because you can't rush the process. It teaches focus because you have to work without applause. It teaches emotional balance because you can't rely on visible progress to stay inspired. And most importantly, it teaches you trust, not in luck or timing, but in your own ability to endure. That trust becomes your foundation for everything that follows. In time, persistence turns into identity. It's no longer something you try to do, it's who you are. You stop thinking in terms of success or failure and start thinking in terms of continuation. You understand that the path doesn't end, it evolves. Each phase leads to the next, and your persistence is what carries you through each transition. You develop a deep respect for time, for growth, and for the compounding nature of effort. That respect keeps you consistent, grounded, and aligned. The world may not reward persistence immediately, but it always rewards it eventually. The ones who persist long after the noise has faded are the ones who get to experience the true depth of success. Not just material, but mental, emotional, and spiritual success. Because the real reward of persistence isn't what you get from it, it's who you become because of it. Every hour you stay committed, every moment you resist the urge to quit, you're shaping a mindset that can't be defeated. You become proof that progress doesn't always need to be seen to be real.